The emergency sirens woke Jack Miller from his afternoon nap. Red lights flashed through the research station's corridors as he jumped up from his small cot, nearly hitting his head on the low ceiling of his quarters. After 3 months on Outpost Station 47, he still hadn't gotten used to the compact spaces. Warning: unknown object approaching. Impact in Sector 7. All personnel clear the area, the station's AI announced in its calm voice. Jack grabbed his medical kit and ran toward the impact zone. As the station's lead xenobiologist, it was his job to handle any biological threats or medical emergencies. The station's corridors were already filled with crew members running in different directions. Through the observation windows, he saw it, a sleek, dark escape pod streaking through space toward their station. The pod's surface seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it look like a hole in space itself. "Miller, don't go in there," shouted Captain Reed through the comm system. "Wait for security." But Jack had already made his decision. If someone was in that pod, they might need immediate medical help. He reached the airlock just as the pod crashed into the containment net in Sector 7. The automatic systems pulled the pod into the emergency docking bay. Steam hissed from its damaged surface as the room pressurized. Jack approached carefully, scanner in hand. The readings showed one life form inside, badly injured based on the erratic vital signs. The pod's hatch suddenly burst open with a loud crack. Jack stepped back, heart pounding. What he saw made him freeze in place. A creature emerged, its body covered in what looked like living shadows. Its form shifted and moved like smoke given solid form, but with a definite shape, roughly 8 feet tall, with multiple limbs that seemed to appear and disappear at will. Most striking were its eyes. There were dozens of them, glowing with a deep purple light, opening and closing across its body in patterns Jack had never seen before. His scanner started beeping wildly. Behind him, he heard screams. Turning around, he saw 3 alien crew members, 2 Rigelians and a Centaurian, backing away in absolute terror. "Shadowhunter," screamed one of the Rigelians. "Run. Call for emergency termination." Jack had heard stories about Shadowhunters. Every species in the galaxy knew about them, the most lethal predators ever encountered, responsible for the destruction of entire colonies. No one had ever successfully contained or communicated with one. Standard protocol was immediate termination. But something made Jack stay. The creature was injured. That much was clear from how it moved and the dark fluid leaking from its side. But more than that, he saw something in those ever-shifting eyes. Pain, yes, but also intelligence. And fear. The creature collapsed, its shadowy form rippling like water. Without thinking, Jack ran forward with his medical kit. "Miller, get out of there now." Captain Reed's voice boomed through the speakers. "That's a Class 1 threat. Security is on the way." Jack ignored the captain. The creature looked at him with several of its eyes, its form shrinking slightly. Was it trying to appear less threatening? He pulled out his medical scanner, moving slowly. "I want to help," he said softly, knowing the creature probably couldn't understand his words, but hoping his tone would convey his intentions. "You're hurt. Let me help you." To his amazement, the Shadowhunter remained still, its eyes focusing on his medical kit. Several of its eyes blinked in a sequential pattern. Not random, Jack realized. It was deliberate. He heard the heavy footsteps of the security team approaching. In seconds, they would arrive with their weapons ready. Standard protocol would be executed. The creature would be killed. Jack made his decision. He stepped between the security entrance and the injured Shadowhunter, raising his hands. "This is a sentient being requesting medical assistance," he announced firmly. "Under Article 7 of the Galactic Medical Code, I am claiming emergency medical authority. Anyone who interferes will be in violation of Coalition law." Behind him, he heard a soft sound, almost like a purr, but at a frequency that made his bones vibrate. The Shadowhunter had moved closer to him, its shadowy form now between him and the rest of the room. a protective stance. In that moment, Jack realized two things. He had just made either the biggest mistake or the greatest discovery of his life, and somehow, impossibly, he and the galaxy's most feared predator were now protecting each other. The medical bay's doors slid shut with a heavy thud as Jack activated the emergency lockdown. Outside, he could hear Captain Reed shouting orders and security teams rushing into position. The station's AI kept repeating warnings about a Class 1 threat being loose on the station. But Jack wasn't paying attention to any of that. His focus was entirely on the injured Shadowhunter, which had managed to move itself onto one of the medical beds. The creature's shadowy form rippled with each movement, and the dark fluid, its blood, Jack assumed, continued to seep from its wound. "This is your final warning, Miller," Captain Reed's voice crackled through the intercom. "Open these doors immediately, or we'll break them down. That thing will kill you the moment it regains its strength." Jack walked over to the intercom and pressed the reply button. "Sir, with all due respect, if it wanted to kill me, it would have done so already. This being is intelligent and injured. I'm not letting anyone harm it." He turned back to the Shadowhunter, which was watching him with several of its purple eyes. The others were scanning the room, taking in every detail of the medical equipment. Its behavior wasn't that of a mindless predator. It showed curiosity, awareness, and most importantly, restraint. Jack grabbed his medical scanner and slowly approached. "I need to look at your injury," he said softly. "Can you show me where it hurts the most?" The Shadowhunter's form shifted, and several of its eyes focused on a specific area where the dark fluid seemed to be leaking most heavily. Then, to Jack's amazement, parts of its body began to glow with faint patterns of light, pulsing in what seemed like a deliberate sequence. Jack rushed to his computer terminal and began recording the patterns. He had studied xenobiology for years, but nothing had prepared him for this. The patterns weren't random. They were too structured, too rhythmic. A loud bang on the doors made both of them jump. The security teams were trying to break in. "Think, Jack, think," he muttered to himself. If the Shadowhunter communicated through light patterns, maybe. He grabbed a small medical light and began flashing it in a simple pattern. 3 short flashes, pause, 3 short flashes, universal across space. The distress signal. The Shadowhunter's eyes all opened wide at once. Then, its body lit up with the exact same pattern. "It's mimicking. It understands," Jack exclaimed. He quickly typed notes into his computer. "You're not just intelligent. You have a language." Another bang at the door, louder this time. The Shadowhunter's form bristled, becoming more jagged and threatening, but Jack noticed it was positioning itself between him and the door again. "Don't worry," Jack said. "I won't let them in. But I need to treat your wound. Will you let me?" He held up his medical kit where the Shadowhunter could see it. The creature's form relaxed slightly, and it produced a pattern of lights that seemed almost questioning. Jack pulled out a universal tissue regenerator, standard equipment for treating unknown alien physiologies. He demonstrated its use on a small cut on his own arm, showing how it healed the wound. The Shadowhunter watched intently, then shifted its form to better expose its injured area. Jack worked carefully, using the regenerator to seal the wound. The creature remained perfectly still, only its eyes moving to track his movements. "Miller," Captain Reed's voice came through again. "Our sensors show you're treating that thing. Have you lost your mind? It's a Shadowhunter. It's probably killed more people than every other predator species combined." The Shadowhunter's lights pulsed rapidly. Was that agitation? Denial? Jack needed to understand. He grabbed his tablet and pulled up the station's database on known Shadowhunter attacks. To his surprise, the creature immediately began producing complex light patterns while pointing at the screen. You're trying to tell me something about these reports, aren't you?" Jack asked. "They're wrong somehow." The Shadowhunter's eyes blinked in sequence, the same pattern it had used earlier when agreeing with him. Jack's heart raced with excitement and fear. He wasn't just treating an injured predator. He was on the verge of the greatest xenobiological discovery in human history. "Captain," he called out, "I need more time. This being isn't what we think it is. Everything we know about Shadowhunters might be wrong." The only response was the sound of heavier equipment being brought to break down the doors. Jack looked at the Shadowhunter, whose lights now pulsed slowly, almost sadly. "Don't worry," he said firmly. "We're going to figure this out. Together." Jack's fingers flew across the medical bay's computer console as he worked. He had connected his tablet to the station's main scanner system, creating a basic program to analyze the Shadowhunter's light patterns. The pounding on the door had stopped an hour ago, but he knew Captain Reed was just gathering bigger equipment to break in. "Okay," Jack said, holding up the tablet. "Let's try this again." The Shadowhunter, now fully healed thanks to the tissue regenerator, moved closer. Its shadowy form had become less threatening over the past hours, now looking more like flowing water than smoke. The creature's many eyes focused on the screen as Jack played back recordings of its light patterns, matched with basic words and images. The tablet showed a simple image of a person. The Shadowhunter's body lit up with a pattern that Jack's program recorded and translated into sound, a series of ultrasonic pulses that his program converted to a lower frequency. "Human." The rough translation appeared on screen. Jack's heart jumped. "Yes, that's right." He pointed to himself. "Human." The Shadowhunter's lights pulsed in what Jack was starting to recognize as agreement. Then it produced a new pattern, more complex than before. The translation program worked for several seconds. "Friend? Protect?" "Yes," Jack said firmly. "Friend, I'll protect you." The creature's form rippled, and then it produced a pattern that made Jack's program light up with multiple translations. After several attempts, a clear message formed. "I am Echo." "Echo," Jack repeated, amazed. "You have a name. You're not just intelligent. You have a whole language, a culture." He typed quickly. "Why does everyone think you're dangerous? Why do they hunt you?" Echo's form darkened, and the light patterns became rapid and intense. The translation program struggled to keep up. "Others hunt us. We run. We hide. We fight only to live." A loud crash echoed through the station. Echo's form instantly became more jagged, defensive. "It's okay," Jack said, though his own heart was racing. "Keep telling me. Who hunts you?" The next series of patterns were so complex that Jack had to adjust his program several times. Finally, a clear message emerged. "The Void Hunters. They chase us across stars. They say we are animals. They tell others we are monsters. But we are scientists, explorers. I study stars. Make paths between them better." Jack sat back, stunned. "You're a scientist? Like me?" Echo's lights pulsed in agreement, then continued. "Found way to make ships go faster between stars, without hurting us. They don't want that. They want to keep hunting us." The station's emergency alarm suddenly blared. Captain Reed's voice came through, sounding worried. "Miller, we've got bigger problems. A Void Hunter vessel just dropped out of hyperspace. They're demanding we hand over the Shadowhunter." Jack looked at Echo, whose form was now pulsing with patterns he recognized as fear. "The ones who hunt you. They're here. They will kill me." Echo's translation appeared. "Kill you too. Cannot let them find research." "What research?" Echo moved to the medical scanner, and to Jack's amazement, interfaced directly with it through its light patterns. The screen filled with complex equations and diagrams. "Better way to travel between stars." The translation read, "No need to hunt us anymore. But they make much money from hunt. Don't want change." Another crash, closer this time. Jack could hear shouting in the corridors. "Miller," Captain Reed called again. "The Void Hunters are threatening to board us by force. Whatever that creature's told you, we need to hand it over." But Jack was reading through Echo's research data, his eyes growing wide. The equations were incredible. a completely new approach to faster-than-light travel that would revolutionize spaceflight. "This is why they hunt you," he whispered. "Not because you're dangerous, but because you found a way to make their business obsolete." Echo's form rippled in agreement, then produced a new pattern. "Help me share truth. Show Galaxy real monsters." Jack stood up straight, his decision made. He began downloading Echo's research to every secure channel he could access. "Captain," he called out, "you need to see this. The Shadowhunters aren't the threat. They never were. And I can prove it." The entire station shook as the Void Hunters ship locked onto their docking port. Jack watched through the medical bay's window as their massive black ship cast a shadow over the station. It was easily 5 times larger than any normal ship he'd seen, covered in weapons that were all aimed at them. "Final warning." The cold voice broadcast through all station channels. "Release the Shadowhunter to us, or we will take it by force. You have 10 minutes." Echo's form had become completely still, which Jack now recognized as a sign of intense focus. The creature's light patterns flashed rapidly across its body as it worked with the medical bay's computers, transmitting data faster than Jack could follow. "What are you doing?" Jack asked, adjusting his translation program. "Sending warning," appeared on his screen. "Others of my kind nearby. But Void Hunters will kill many to get me. Must protect station." The medical bay doors suddenly hissed. Captain Reed had finally bypassed the security locks. He burst in with 4 security officers, all holding weapons. "Miller, this ends now." Reed stopped mid-sentence, staring at the screens full of data. "What is all this?" "The truth," Jack said, stepping forward. "Captain, Echo isn't a mindless predator. The Shadowhunters are an advanced species. They're scientists, explorers. The Void Hunters have been lying to the entire galaxy." Echo moved slowly, its form deliberately non-threatening, and projected a new light pattern. Jack's program translated. "Show him Star's path research. Show him why they hunt us." Jack quickly pulled up Echo's faster-than-light travel equations. "Look at this, Captain. The Void Hunters get rich by hunting Shadowhunters and using their biological materials for faster space travel. But Echo's people found a better way, one that doesn't require killing anyone." Reed lowered his weapon slightly, moving closer to read the screens. This is impossible. This would revolutionize space travel." The station shook again. The Void Hunter's voice returned. 5 minutes. "If you hand Echo over, this knowledge dies with them," Jack said firmly. "How many more intelligent beings will be hunted down and killed to keep old technology profitable?" Reed looked between Jack, Echo, and his security team. The officers were also lowering their weapons, clearly uncertain. "Even if you're right," Reed said, "that ship out there can tear this station apart. I have to protect my crew." Echo suddenly lit up with urgent patterns. The translation flashed. "More coming. Friends coming. Need small time." As if answering Echo's words, new alarms blared. A young officer ran into the medical bay. "Captain, multiple ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're Shadowhunters." Everyone rushed to the windows. Jack's mouth fell open. At least a dozen ships had appeared, their dark hulls seeming to bend light around them. They'd moved with incredible grace, surrounding the Void Hunters ship. 1 minute to surrender, the Void Hunters announced, but their voice sounded less confident. Echo's next pattern translated as, "Now truth choice. Help us share truth with Galaxy, or let lies continue." Captain Reed stood straight, making his decision. "Officer Thompson, send Echo's research data to every Coalition news channel and science division. Officer Chen, get me a channel to Coalition Command." The Void Hunters must have detected the data transmission. Their ship's weapons powered up, but the Shadowhunter vessels moved in perfect formation, creating some kind of energy field around the station. "This is Captain Reed of Research Station 47. Reed announced to Coalition Command. I am reporting a Class 1 violation of sentient rights and submitting evidence of a massive criminal conspiracy by the Void Hunters Corporation. The Shadowhunters are not hostile predators. They are an advanced species being hunted to fuel an illegal technology monopoly. The Void Hunter's ship fired, but the shot dissipated harmlessly against the Shadowhunter's shield. Echo's form glowed with what Jack now recognized as satisfaction. "The hunt ends today," Jack said quietly, watching as more Shadowhunter ships appeared. "Now it's time for the truth to come out." Echo's lights pulsed in agreement, but also with urgency. The translation appeared, "Truth coming out, but Void Hunters not surrender easy. Big fight coming. Need help defend station." Jack looked at Captain Reed, who nodded firmly. "Well then," Reed said, "let's show the galaxy what happens when humans and Shadowhunters work together." The space around Research Station 47 had become a battlefield. The Void Hunter's ship launched attack after attack, each one blocked by the protective shield created by the Shadowhunter vessels. Inside the station, Jack worked frantically with Echo to spread their evidence across every available channel. "Look at this," Jack said, pointing to new data appearing on his screen. "The Coalition's chief scientists are confirming your research. They say your synthetic faster-than-light system could be implemented immediately." Echo's form rippled with excitement, but before the creature could respond, the station rocked violently. Alarms blared as Captain Reed's voice came through the speakers. "They're launching boarding pods. All security teams to defensive positions." Through the windows, Jack could see small, dark pods shooting from the Void Hunter's ship, punching through gaps in the Shadowhunter's shield. Echo's lights pulsed rapidly, the translation appearing on screen. "They come for research. Must protect data core." "The data's already out there," Jack argued. "We've sent it everywhere." "Not all." Echo's pattern translated. "Core holds more. Proves worse things. Shows how many they killed. Shows Coalition members who helped them." Another explosion shook the station. Security Officer Thompson burst into the medical bay. "They've breached Level 3. They're heading for the central computer core." Echo's form suddenly expanded, becoming more angular. The translation flashed. "Take me there. Must show you full truth." Jack nodded to Thompson. "Get us to the core. Now." They ran through the station's corridors, passing crew members rushing to defensive positions. Echo moved like flowing water beside them, its form occasionally stretching ahead to check corners. They could hear weapons fire in the distance. When they reached the computer core, Jack's heart sank. 3 Void Hunters were already there, cutting through the security doors. They wore black armor that seemed to absorb light, making them look like human-shaped holes in reality. "Stop," Jack shouted. "The truth is already out. You've lost." The Void Hunters turned. Their leader laughed, a cold sound that made Jack's skin crawl. "You think releasing that research was enough? We've survived worse. The Coalition needs us. Once we destroy the evidence of their involvement, they'll have no choice but to keep supporting us." Echo suddenly surged forward, its form spreading across the ceiling and walls. The creature's lights pulsed in a pattern Jack had never seen before, and all the station's screens lit up at once. Data began flowing across every display, not just research, but videos, recordings, and documents. Jack saw footage of Coalition officials accepting bribes, secret orders for Shadowhunter hunts, and worst of all, proof that the Void Hunters had been deliberately spreading lies about Shadowhunter attacks for decades. "You didn't just hunt them," Jack said, his voice shaking with anger. "You created fake attacks, made everyone think they were monsters. They were animals until they proved useful." The Void Hunter leader snarled, raising his weapon. "And now they'll die as animals." But before he could fire, something extraordinary happened. Echo's lights pulsed in a complex pattern, and suddenly every Shadowhunter ship outside the station pulsed with the same lights. The pattern rippled through the station's systems, through every screen and electronic device. The Void Hunter's weapons and armor suddenly went dead. What did you do?" their leader demanded. Echo's translation appeared on the nearest screen. Showed true power of our science. Your weapons use old Starpath technology. We control it now. Always could. Never wanted to fight. Security teams rushed in, quickly surrounding the helpless Void Hunters. Captain Reed arrived moments later, looking at the screen still displaying evidence of the conspiracy. Coalition Command is responding, Reed announced. They're sending ships to arrest all involved parties. The Void Hunters' entire operation is being shut down. Jack looked at Echo, whose form had returned to its calmer state. You could have stopped them at any time, couldn't you? Why didn't you? Echo's answer translated simply. Needed galaxy to see truth with own eyes. Needed friend to show we not monsters. Needed human to believe first. The station's situation room was chaos. Reports were coming in from across the galaxy. More Void Hunter ships were approaching, ignoring Coalition orders to stand down. Captain Reed stood at the command console, watching as red dots appeared on the space map. They're desperate, Jack said, looking at the growing number of enemy ships. They know if they don't destroy the evidence now, they'll lose everything. Echo's form shifted anxiously beside him, its lights pulsing rapidly. The translation appeared, more friends coming too. First time in long history, all Shadowhunter groups unite. Will not hide anymore. The space map suddenly filled with new signals. Dozens of Shadowhunter ships emerging from what looked like folds in space itself. They moved with impossible grace, taking up defensive positions around the station. How are we going to coordinate with them? Captain Reed asked. We've never fought alongside Shadowhunters before. Echo's next pattern translated as something unexpected. Jack's translation program can modify station systems. Let all ships talk together. Jack quickly understood. We can use my program to create a real-time translation system between human and Shadowhunter ships. He rushed to the main computer, Echo flowing beside him. Together, they began modifying his simple medical bay translator into something much bigger. Echo's lights pulsed directly into the system while Jack typed commands. The first Void Hunter ships opened fire. The station shook, but the Shadowhunter shields held strong. Translation network online, Jack announced. Suddenly, light patterns from all the Shadowhunter ships appeared as text on their screens, and human communications were being converted into light patterns the Shadowhunters could understand. Captain Reed wasted no time. All human security teams coordinate with Shadowhunter vessels on your sectors. Share targeting data. Work together. What happened next was something no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. Human defensive systems and Shadowhunter technology worked in perfect harmony. When Void Hunter ships tried to breach the shield, station weapons and Shadowhunter energy beams struck together, twice as effective. They're launching another boarding attack. Someone shouted. Echo's pattern flashed urgently. They still have warriors inside station. We'll try to reach backup data cores. Security teams fall back to protect the core. Reed ordered. But Echo had another idea. The creature's next pattern translated. Let me teach humans how to fight with us. Show true way of shadow defense. Jack watched in amazement as Echo demonstrated. The creature's form spread out, creating patches of living shadow on the walls and floor. Step in shadow spots. The translation read, We guide you. Trust us. The security teams looked uncertain until Jack stepped forward. I'll go first. He stepped into one of Echo's shadows. Immediately, he felt a strange sensation, like he was both solid and flowing at the same time. He could move through Echo's shadow network, appearing anywhere it touched. This is incredible, Jack exclaimed, stepping out of a shadow on the other side of the room. The security teams quickly caught on. Soon, human officers were using the shadow networks created by Echo and other Shadowhunters to move instantly around the station, appearing behind Void Hunter boarding parties and catching them completely by surprise. Through the windows, Jack could see the space battle was turning. The Void Hunter's superior technology meant nothing against the combined forces of humans and Shadowhunters working together. Their ships were being disabled one by one. "Look," Captain Reed pointed at new signals appearing on the map. "Coalition warships. They're finally here." Echo's form rippled with what Jack now recognized as satisfaction. The translation appeared: "Unity wins. Shadow and light together defeat those who live in lies." The remaining Void Hunter ships, seeing the Coalition warships arrive, finally began to surrender. Cheers erupted throughout the station as the shields powered down and Coalition forces began boarding the enemy vessels. Jack turned to Echo, whose many eyes were all focused on him. "We did it. We actually did it." Echo's pattern translated simply: "No, you did it. One human who chose to see truth changed everything. Changed future." As they watched Coalition ships secure the area, Jack realized Echo was right. All it had taken was one person willing to look past fear and prejudice, to see the truth behind the shadows. Now, as humans and shadow hunters worked together to process prisoners and secure the station, a new chapter in galactic history was beginning. And it had started with a simple choice to help instead of harm. 1 month after the battle at Research Station 47, Jack stood before the Coalition Council on their central world. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from every Coalition species, and for the first time in history, a group of shadow hunters. Echo stood beside him, its form flowing gracefully as it projected light patterns that the new translation systems converted for everyone to understand. The chamber's walls displayed data about the successful implementation of the Shadowhunters' faster-than-light travel system across the first wave of Coalition ships. "The results are beyond dispute," Jack said to the council. "The synthetic Starpath technology is 3 times more efficient than the old system. No more hunting. No more killing. Just pure science, working for everyone." The head of the council, an elderly human named Avis, nodded slowly. "The Coalition acknowledges its grave errors in believing the Void Hunters' lies. Thanks to your actions, Mr. Miller, over 200 Coalition officials involved in the conspiracy have been arrested. The Void Hunters Corporation has been disbanded." Echo's patterns translated for all to see. Past mistakes understood. Future matters more. Many stars to explore together now. "Indeed," Davis agreed. "Which is why this council has decided to create a new department, the Joint Space Exploration Initiative. Humans and shadow hunters working together to map new regions of space using the combined power of our technologies." Jack's heart leaped as Davis continued. "Mr. Miller, given your unique position as the first human to truly understand and work with the shadow hunters, we would like you to head this initiative." Echo's form rippled with what Jack now knew was happiness. The creature's next patterns made him smile. "See, told you, one human who believes changes everything." The council chamber's doors opened, and Jack turned to see more humans and shadow hunters entering together. They were the first graduating class of the new Joint Species Academy, where both races learned to work together. "The Academy students have something to show you," Davis said. The humans stepped into shadows created by their Shadowhunter partners, and together they performed a complex series of movements that would have been impossible just a month ago. They flowed through the shadow network in perfect harmony, appearing and disappearing across the chamber. Jack watched with pride. What had started with his simple decision to help an injured being had grown into something amazing. Ships were being refitted with the new drive systems, joint exploration teams were mapping unknown regions, and most importantly, the fear that had kept 2 species apart was disappearing. "There is one more thing," Davis announced. "The Shadowhunters have given us the coordinates of their home system. They would like to establish an embassy. Mr. Miller, they have specifically requested you as the first human ambassador." Echo's patterns danced with excitement. Home beautiful. Many wonders to share, much to learn from each other. Jack looked at his friend, remembering their first meeting when everyone else had seen only a monster. "I would be honored," he said. The chamber erupted in applause, human hands clapping while Shadowhunters created beautiful patterns of light. Outside the council windows, Jack could see ships taking off into space, human and Shadowhunter vessels flying together, their crews working as one. "Ready for new adventure?" Echo's pattern asked. "Always," Jack replied. "Though I have to ask, that first day in the medical bay, did you know how all this would turn out?" Echo's response made everyone in the chamber laugh. "Hoped. Shadowhunters study stars, but humans study impossible. You make impossible happen." As they left the chamber together, Jack saw young human children watching the Shadowhunters with fascination instead of fear. They waved, and the Shadowhunters created beautiful light shows for them. The galaxy was changing. Old fears were being replaced with new understanding, and it had all started because one human had chosen to look past appearances and see the truth. "So," Jack said as they walked toward their ship, "ready to show me your homeworld?" Echo's form shifted playfully. "Ready to show Galaxy what humans and Shadowhunters do next. Together, make better future for all." Jack smiled. The most feared predator in the galaxy had become humanity's greatest ally. And this was just the beginning.